It's the SKOR North Twins Show.
All right. Wow. If you missed our first episode with Darren Doogie Wolfson, literally, and this has happened, I think, twice before, I hit the record button. We use this application. I stay quiet on the set, essentially. Sometimes Judd still mutters things to himself after I say quiet to the set.
Or I jumble papers.
Or I jumble papers. Does some of that.
Yep.
And as I do that, I get a flood of text messages. Wow, I can't believe they're doing this. Hit the refresh in the Twitter machine, and there it is. The Twins are exploring interests to sell the team. I shouldn't say the Twins. The Pohlads are exploring interests to selling the team. So we did do a kind of instant reaction to that on the SKOR North YouTube channel. But here on the Twins Show feed, we wanted to give you guys our take here. No Mackey on this episode. He's on a plane somewhere, maybe even trying to figure out who can help buy the Minnesota Twins as we speak right now. He'll be back in tow tomorrow. So instead, it's just me and the sports dad, Judd Zolga, to give some more takes on this. So in case you were sleeping under a rock, if you haven't heard this news, which has been live for the past 2 hours now, the Minnesota Twins the Pohlads are announcing an intention to sell the team. There were some quotes that were given from Joe Pohlad. Probably this one is the one that probably sticks out to me the most. After months of thoughtful consideration, our family reached a decision this summer to explore selling the Twins as we enter the next phase of this process. The time is right to make this decision public. So again, this is just them announcing we are exploring selling. The Twins haven't sold anything today. Want that to be very... I think some fans
Glenn Taylor explored selling the Wolves up until he sold it. So this is a good point, Tex.
So this is step one. Don't get too ahead of yourself.
We didn't really mean it. We'd like to keep the team.
Joe went on to say, we truly respect and cherish what the Twins mean to Minneapolis, St. Paul, the great state of Minnesota, and this entire region. Our goal is to be as informative as possible with the team, staff, and you, the fans. You deserve that, because in so many ways, this team doesn't belong to one family. It belongs to all of you. It's our objective to find an ownership group who all of us can be proud of and who will take care of the Minnesota Twins. So I gave my initial kind of just blurb reaction thoughts as I was trying to process and get everything up, get our ducks in a row here on the back end side, being your executive producer, but also as your resident beat podcaster, I guess, here on the SKOR North Twins Show. This is the equivalent for Minnesota sports fans of the Twins signing, Aaron Judge in free agency, making the biggest trade imaginable. Outside of winning a World Series, and by the way, I was born the year after, and that maybe says a lot about where this team has had. Maybe I'm at fault here. But this is probably one of the biggest days in Minnesota sports fans' lives. And I know that sounds crazy because they haven't even sold anything. It's just the intention and the announcement and the decision to sell the team from the Pohlads, who have somehow hit even a bigger all-time low with Minnesota sports fans, especially over the last few months and mostly over the last year plus. But their decision to sell and to, again, give it back to the fans because it belongs to all of you. This is one of the best days in numerous Minnesota sports fans' lives. And I worked for Joe. We've documented this. I've met Joe. I know who Joe is. Their decision to sell this team and to give it back to an ownership group, which we have no idea who it could be, is actually, I think, worth celebrating if you are a Minnesota sports fan.
Yeah, I guess my question is, so Joe took over the team from his uncle, Jim, in 2022. He had been sort of groomed through the years in different jobs with the Twins, seemed, at least the past year, utterly unqualified for this job. And I think there's a couple things here. Because, yeah, I mean, it sounds great to say, this is your team and blah, blah, blah. But I think the reality is this. Carl Pohlad bought the team in 1984 for like $35 million. Yes, that's about right, from Calvin Griffith. And they won 2 World Series. Things really started to go south with the Pohlads and Carl in particular when the Twins in the late 90s started to say, we need a new stadium. And then Carl supposedly tried to get the state to buy a portion of the team. The state, of course, said buzz off. Then he was trying to sell the team, and there was an agreement that's been greatly debated about how real it was with a guy named Don Beaver in the Triad, but threatening to sell and move. And then in 2000, the Montreal Expos, and Carl raised his hand and said, contract us. That's fine. We'll just go away. Our franchise, which has been around since the early, 1900s, as the Senators, will just be gone. That was a low point. Then the team got good. Carl passed away, and the team had success, got a stadium, went downwards. I don't know that Jim ever enjoyed, though, being I guess you could call them, because technically they're in charge, the steward of the franchise. And it definitely seemed like Joe didn't. As we speculated about on the live show, The Scoop with Doogie and Phil, and Phil came out and said this, it now makes more sense why Joe talked about right-sizing this team last year, because if you had it in your mind to sell it, you do want to make it as attractive as possible for a buyer. And believe it or not, stripping it down is the right move then. Right. Because if you have a really successful team and it is full of, people making a ton and the good times and you got the best champagne, that makes it less profitable to buy. So it now makes more sense. But I guess my question is, was the Pohlad's heart, and it appears in last year, the response is no, was the Pohlad's heart in doing this any longer? Bob, according to Royce, Bob Pohlad, who is one of the three brothers or sons of Carl Pohlad, he is Joe's dad. Royce says that Bob Pohlad actually behind the scenes has been involved, but I don't think he's had any front-facing role here. So they sort of just foist this on Joe. Joe is 42 with a family, and quite frankly, we have no idea if he knew what he was doing. Just because you come from a billionaire family doesn't mean we have seen certainly things pass down and it hasn't worked. So I think if you're a Twins fan, absolutely great news. In fact, the past week, because now if you want to watch games next year, yeah, it'll cost you something, but at least you can stream games. And now this, and I would quash this, because this is going to be the question. Okay, they get sold. What if they get sold and they move? Be far more concerned about the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves, because of Target Center, until they get a new building, are a threat. Now, they might not move. They might not be allowed to, but they're a credible threat. Target Field remains a baseball palace. It's now going on 15 or 16 years old. But I mean, it is a ideal, as far as what baseball wanted, it's gorgeous. The Twins would never get approval. Think about relocation in two ways. One is the Athletics want to go to Vegas, but that's so screwed up. They're going to go to Sacramento temporarily for 3 years. Okay. So that's a problem for baseball, not the Twins. The Tampa Bay Rays are finally going to get a new stadium, but they would
blew off yesterday.
Well, yeah, and that's a whole nother thing, and just a
horrible situation.
Tragedy there.
Yeah, horrible situation.
But the Rays were the poster child to say, get out of here. They didn't. So the Twins are going nowhere. Whoever they're sold to is keeping them here. But I'm with you. I think this is great. If you're a Twins fan, I think this is ultimately great news. It's been 30 plus years since the Twins, with Carl Pohlad owning them, won a world championship. In baseball terms, Declan, that might well be 300 years ago. There's no semblance to what was going on from a business standpoint. The only thing I question is this, and I know sports are fun to own and billionaires can afford them, but as far as an investment goes, if I'm going to invest in a football team, a basketball team, a hockey team, or a baseball team, I think baseball right now is at the bottom of the list because it doesn't really have its act together. So I don't think it's a slam dunk that you're going to have a line of people excited about this to buy it. I do think that you will have one or two very interested parties and thus begin a new chapter that offers, if nothing else, because there's no assurances, but it offers hope, Declan. It offers hope of a different day.
Yeah, so a few things. Number one, relocation should be the furthest thing down on your list right now. Exactly. If you're a fan, you're worried about that. That should be far down the list of concerns if you have them with a new ownership group. Now let's look at recency here. So the Baltimore Orioles, who they were the last team to sell. They announced plans to sell in January of this year, and that $1.725 billion sale was finalized 3 months later. Now that was a quick turnaround.
Yep.
Now, that's pretty damn quick.
Yep.
I don't know. I can't even say that I would be surprised if it was that quick because I genuinely don't know. I have reached out to comment for clarification from the people who are handling this for the Pohlad family. If I hear anything on that, follow me on Twitter or stay tuned to this podcast feed if I can get some more information on that. But they sold for $1.75 billion. The Orioles, too, were the 18th highest valuation of the 30 MLB teams in Sportical's 2024 rankings, and the Twins were just behind them at 19th at 1.7. So I'm guessing that's maybe what they're aiming for. Is probably one. If they went for 2, I'd be pretty surprised. But I think the high ones is probably where they're at. Luckily, as Judd knows, thankfully he can sympathize with me. We're not math people. We're certainly not money people, so we won't try to get too much into the weeds of what are they truly worth to the common dollar. And then the next bigger thing is, if I'm a Twins fan, I'm like, all right, who's the next ownership group? Well, number one with the bullet, and I'm going to speak for a lot of fans here, and I think it's probably fair to make this assumption. What are you going to pump into this team? Because if it's the same thing from a new ownership group that comes in here and doesn't want to spend, then you're kind of running your head against the wall and you're opening the mystery box of the same thing you used to have. That's probably the question that's on a lot of Twins fans right now is, all right, who is it? We don't know. We can speculate. We'll wait to see who it is. Question 2, will you spend to make this happen? Because the Baltimore Orioles went from the dead last in payroll 2 years ago to $90 million. The Mets are just pumping money in from Cohen, and they sold just 4 years ago under new ownership group. So that's probably the bigger question that fans want to know. Will you pump money, whoever you are, into this ball club?
So in the situation of the Orioles, they were owned for a long time by a guy by the name of Peter Angelos, who I believe has passed. Big time lawyer, had some huge cases, made a ton of money, bought the team probably in the 90s or so. And he owned them. He passed away, if I'm not mistaken. His kids took over and sort of stripped the team down. Sound familiar? And so here's what I think we're seeing in baseball in particular, and probably sports. Probably not fair to draw the line at baseball. I feel like there was a long time, and this was not Carl Pohlad necessarily, because he was a billionaire, or at the time in 1984 a millionaire, but he was not a business himself. He was a businessman. But I feel like for a long time we saw baseball teams be an investment for companies, which is dangerous because the company wanted to get as much as they possibly could, and they would spend to try and make the product successful. But it felt more like a nameless, faceless, the Chicago Tribune Corp owned the Cubs. I feel like what we're seeing now more and more is billionaire guys, and there are probably, and gals, there are probably more billionaires now than there's ever been, right, who also have interest in sports, buy these teams and actually pump money into them because they want the team to win, because they care. Like we're sort of going back to, in some weird ways, the old days when the baseball team would be the lone business of the owner, but the owner loved baseball. Well, now there's a lot of guys and gals who are billionaires who have a ton of interests, but they're not nameless, faceless business corporations. And then they come in and say, hey, this is a baseball team. This is awesome. I can afford to do X, Y, Z. Do I want to be profitable, Declan? Absolutely. But do I want to win? Is winning important? Absolutely. That's what you hope to get here. A couple of prime examples outside of baseball that I can think of off the top of my head. I believe his name is Ryan Smith, and his wife own the Utah Jazz. And they bought them, I don't know, within the last 5 years, okay? He's the guy that then went to Arizona and bought the Coyotes. Mm-hmm. And he is, I think he's a tech guy, billionaire, and he cares though. Like, he wants to win. He's invested. He's invested in the city. He's invested in everything that goes along with his purchases. He's not just trying to bleed every last cent. He wants to make money, but he also wants to win. The guy that bought the Phoenix Suns, Matt Ishbia, he's another guy. Played, I think he was like the 11th guy on Tom Izzo's, one of his Michigan State teams. Another billionaire, bought the Suns. He's there all the time. He wants to win. That's what I would hope this is. I believe that the situation in Baltimore is like that now, Dex. And I know, now Steve Cohen's in a different stratosphere, but I know that the Mets, right? The Mets, I mean, Steve Cohen at times might be too hands-on, but at least he wants to win.
Yep.
So I think that's the path, and I think that's the path we're going down with sports, especially baseball. So I think that's what you're looking at here. But you want people, and heck, the example here, if it happens, the Wolves. Mark Lowry and A-Rod want to win basketball games. Like they have already, despite the fact they don't officially own the Wolves and might never own the Wolves, they have poured resources into that team. Leopold. I know that the Wild have been disappointing, but he cares. You want somebody that you feel like cares. And I got to be honest, it's been a long time since I felt like to the Pohlad family, the Twins were anything more than a shrug of the shoulders.
Absolutely. Yeah, Ken Rosenthal, too, kind of just briefly commented on this on Foul Territory earlier this morning and said that with these RSN deals, too, going away, and the Twins, who, by the way, announced a brand new TV deal just 48 hours ago, 72 hours ago, and now have announced an intention to sell. I mean, those are two things that I think a lot of Twins fans actually were hoping to happen, and they literally happened in a 3 days' time. But Rosenthal talked about if these RSNs are going away, and these owners that are owning these franchises are no longer going to be getting checks that are significant money. Whether the Twins had a poor check relative to the league, but that's still $55 million that is just off your books. That's
100%.
That's a huge chunk of dough.
100%.
Do other owners explore? I mean, to your point, it's not exactly appetizing to own a Major League Baseball team because of that uncertainty in terms of the revenue that's coming in. But does this actually spur other owners in Major League Baseball trying to get out of this, trying to make some money back?
Pirates are, in fact, I've seen the same theme from Pittsburgh that we saw here, which is if you're not going to invest, just get out, dude. Just get out. I will say this. So, and we didn't break this down with Dukes, but the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. I think we can understand now. I don't think the TV announcement is coincidental, and here's why. So, yes, so the Twins went in 2023, Diamond Sports Group, which owns or runs Bally Sports North, paid them $54+ million, okay? The Twins then took a check last year, even though they weren't expected to, and I want to ballpark that because it has not been confirmed. Let's say it's between 40 and 42 mil. That's gone now. And in the conference call with Dave St. Peter, who is the president of the team, we asked him about, okay, are you going to have anything now? Because, yeah, it's a subscription-based fee, but costs are going to be split between the Twins, production costs, between the Twins and MLB. Yes, there's income, but that also has to be then pumped back in. It has to be shared with baseball. Here's what I think, Dex. I think the fact this is not coincidental is I don't think you want to start exploring selling your team with an uncertain TV future. So if I put in a bid, I'm going to get a packet like this, right? I'm going to get all your financials. I'm going to get all the particulars, the good, the bad, the ugly. And if I get to TV, which remains a monumentally important part, I'm going to find you don't have a deal yet. Okay, well, are you going back to Bally? Because that place is bankrupt, at least Diamond is. What are you doing here? The other thing is, you could say, but what about, would Bally have paid them again? Maybe, maybe not. Doesn't matter, because here's why. Think about this. Do you want to buy a team that has an adversarial relationship off the jump with its fan base? Because that was, like that TV thing, you can crap on the Twins all you want, and they deserve it. The season was a PR disaster. The end was atrocious on the field. But Dex, my theory is this. Like if I sign the paper to buy this team and they're on some rinky-dink network now because I can make a buck, and fans can't watch them, can't stream them, and fans are like, fix this. I think it makes a lot more business sense, even if you're making less from it, to present, hey, we solved this problem. Not ideal. It's your problem now. So I actually think the TV thing being done days before this announcement came out was very, very much done on purpose because it resolves it at least. Yeah. It resolves it. It might not make you money, but now the fans are not pissed about something that the Pohlads foisted off on the people that might buy the team.
And pending this team legitimately being sold in the next 30 days, which I don't even know if legally is possible, but let me paint that picture here for a second.
Yeah.
Unless that takes place, because I've seen these questions too, like what does this mean for now the Twins offseason? Nothing. In terms of player development, and by nothing I mean in terms of free agency movement,
Zero.
Pumping, like
They weren't gonna
nothing
invest
changes
anyway.
there. Nothing. The team is still, as of right now, owned by the Pohlads. So unless the sale goes lickety split like that, which again, I don't even know if it's legal or it's even possible to do, nothing's really going to change this offseason in terms of them being like bigger players in free agency. We need more info on what the timeline is for them to sell, who is coming in, etc. That's probably nothing's going to change much there. In fact, just this offseason in general is going to be very strange. We've already talked about that. We're going to preview that. Hit the like button, subscribe button on the SKOR North Twins Show to stay up to date on all that type of stuff. But I don't envision anything happening like that. I have seen comments, Judd. What just your initial thought on Joe Mauer being involved owning the Minnesota Twins?
I don't think Joe Mauer has any interest.
I don't think he does either.
Like,
personally.
why would he? He like this guy likes being retired.
Yeah.
I don't think he has any, like, if we're trying to, and this is not apples to apples, Dex, but if we're trying to draw some weird Buster Posey comparison, because now he's not involved in the Giants ownership group, but he just got involved in a.
But he was. He was.
Oh, he might have had a small part, but now he's in the front
ownership
office.
Group.
But no,
now
there's no.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not as far off of comparison as I thought. No, Joe Mauer's not. I mean, could he get a small sliver? Could someone come in and be like, hey, Joe, you really love there. Come out to the ballpark once a month, press flesh. Sure, I guess he could. But like, is Joe Mauer going to be? No. I mean, this is going to have to. And look, we're about to find out a couple things. One, does anybody in town want this team? The answer very well might be no.
Yeah.
And then it might have to be someone from the outside. And that's where you're going to get, oh my God, it's an outsider. And especially here where we hate outsiders, we act like we like them, but we don't. And we certainly don't get any type of invitation to our houses. But yeah, this is going to be incredibly interesting to watch play out now. I think, unlike Glenn Taylor, I have no concern that the Pohlads are going to, at the 11th hour, attempt to yank the sale off the table. I think that they'll be very happy to, rid is probably too strong, cleanse themselves of this ball club. But yeah, this is it's probably, it might be a group, but this is going to be led by, I would imagine, $1 billion investor.
Yeah.
So again, could Joe get a small stake? Absolutely. People own stakes in tons of teams. The Wild has, the Wild has people that are on Craig's board who have a stake. But is Joe Mauer going to play a big role? Now, do I think some people could be in trouble with the change? Absolutely.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Like the audit that the Pohlads did was non-existent.
Right.
Like they basically, it's now amazing that Joe, in that last day, I'm clutching my head for those who are podcasting this. It's now amazing that they allowed him and he allowed himself to give that spiel on the last day. Knowing this, you should have just kept quiet.
Yeah.
And
waited.
Let people like us be pissed off and then announce this.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, you look you look terrible, because what are you doing? I'll go back to the most basic thing, one of the things that I ranted about, Dex, but you, before your last game, when you've done nothing to examine what went wrong, you're saying Derek Falvey's safe. Go talk to Derek about Rocco. Rocco's safe. We're all safe. And we're all like, what are you talking about? Like, you might not want them fired, but they shouldn't be safe. And so I'm absolutely amazed that Joe Pohlad was allowed to talk. He shouldn't have been. In retrospect, that was even more stupid than I thought at the time. But I think, Dex, you for sure, probably not for 25. I think for 26, you're going to see a hard audit at Target Field that goes baseball ops, the manager, and a business staff that we don't know. But I mean, you've told me, just off the cuff, the analytics department is faceless, nameless people, but it's a big department.
Huge.
Do you need all of them?
Right. Yeah.
If you don't have a lot more to spend, do you want to suppress payroll because I got 3 guys with calculators telling me things, or 15 people with calculators? I'm not trying to say that analytics departments aren't important. I'm just saying this team for a long time has needed a hard audit, and they're going to get it. And I look forward to that because I think for a Twins fan, you're going to like what you see.
Yeah, the next thing is not even are you pumping money into this for the next ownership group. It's also what do they think of Rocco? What do they think of Falvey? What do they think of the staff that's built? This is when Judd says audit. It's not just looking at how much money you're making. Are these owners heavily invested into how is this team being constructed day by day, and do they have the right pieces and people in place? Some of the Minnesota rich families that I have Googled here. So number one with a bullet is the Cargill group, the Cargill family.
They've always come up. Like
their
the Wolves,
net
they came
worth
up years ago. Yeah.
Yep. Their net worth is $33.5 billion. It's the Pohlads, funny enough, are the second at 3.8. Let me repeat that. The Cargills are 33.4 and the Pohlads are 3.8. So the Cargill family is loaded.
Pohlads are doing so well.
I don't know how interested they are in buying a baseball team.
They've come up before, Dex, for teams. Yeah. I think when Glenn Taylor bought the Wolves in '95 or so, I think the Cargill family, or '94, I forget. I think that they because they're always mentioned. I don't know that they've ever shown a real interest in it. Which, by the way, if you don't want it, don't do it. It's absolutely fine.
The next guy would be Richard Schultz, who is the founder and the largest shareholder of Best Buy. For our Minnesota Twins fans who are outside of Minnesota or have no connection to Minnesota, Best Buy is a Minnesota company. He attended the great St. Paul Central High School, just like Dave Winfield and myself. He's another one that's on this list. Let's see here. William Bill Austin. He's the fourth richest person. He runs Starkey Hearing Technologies in Eden Prairie.
Starkey, yeah.
Fifth is Glenn Taylor with a net worth of $2.7
billion. Buying Twins.
Next on this list, Mark Davis and family. They run Davisco Cheese Supply Company. All right.
Yeah, I don't think they get bought by a local unless there's like a new billionaire in town that we don't know about, which is probably hard. Yeah. I think this comes from outside the state, but again, that is not a death knell because they have the ballpark.
Correct. Yeah. I'm not worried about anyone, whether it's inside or outside, coming in here and relocating the Twins. That'd be shocking. The ballpark's phenomenal. It's in a great location. It's a top 15 media market.
And you couldn't do it. Like they would block it now. So that's of no concern. I think you're right. The biggest concern, or it's not a concern. The biggest question is, does the person want to invest in the team as a business? I think that would be probably not a great idea. Does the person want to invest in the team because they want a baseball team? That would be fantastic. And look, no one's going to come here and spend like a drunken sailor. That's not what we're saying. But, do you keep just a small thing that's a big thing. Do you keep Sonny Gray, right? Like, do you not let him walk? Like, that's something that do you not say, okay, short term, we're not making it here. We got to cut $30 million from our payroll, and instead say, that's not going to be a good move long term because we're going to chase fans away, and it takes much longer to get them back. So I think that's the biggest question. And as we talked about with Dukes, A-Rod and Laurie are going to come up a lot, but they're probably really set on trying to get the Wolves. And I don't know how much they've got to spread around in two investments. There's no question that Laurie seems to be loaded. There's no question in my mind, A-Rod is not. Like, I think he's attached himself to people. And I'm not saying he's not rich, but there's a difference between rich and what's the old phrase? F you rich.
Yeah, bleep you rich.
And I don't think Alex meets that. I think there's a reason why his group didn't get the Mets. So I wouldn't necessarily. I think it's a good idea that Mark and Alex maintain their focus on the Wolves. But as far as our entire conversation goes, I think today is a far better day in Twins history than it is a day to be scared about things.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, hit the like button, subscribe button here on the SKOR North Twins Show YouTube channel. Appreciate everyone that has watched and supported this all season long. Things are going to get even probably more crazier over the next few months. And to be honest, the last few weeks of the SKOR North Twins Show have been actually some of the best and most consumed episodes we've done since the season has ended. There's a lot going on,
which is great. Like, and truth be told, for this show, this is awesome.
Yeah, we like this.
This was a dormant, dead-ass baseball team. And this at least, like, I will say, if Joe Pohlad finally said, I don't really want to do this, thank you for finally doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they got a lot of heat. But, like, he's got a family, he's got kids, certainly not beyond small children to be mean about things, especially if daddy's at home saying, you go to school with the Pohlad, right? So, like, there's a lot of things. And if Joe Pohlad didn't like that, I will defend him there. Not everybody is cut out for this.
Yep.
Not everybody is cut out to run a baseball team. I guess my point was I never thought that he was. And so this is a step in the right direction. I hope the Pohlads make an absolute financial killing, add to their $3.8 billion value, and ride off into a sunset. And they did get 2 World Series titles when Carl was still with us.
So hit the like button, subscribe button. We'll be ready to react to any news. Follow me at Dex Tweets for any updates. Judd Zolgad, that's at Jay Zolgad. Insider. Also, Judd Zolgad Substack. Plug the Substack.
Judd Zolgad Substack will be going right to work when I get done with this. 2 things. Spidex Pest Control on their way, so make sure to check them out. And then fingers are going to get going. The Substacks, some thoughts going on right up there. It's a little bit scary, actually. Some thoughts going on in the old cranium that I'm going to put on the judzolgad.substack.com. Check it out. Thank you, Declan.
And subscribe to all of our other great stuff, too, on SKOR North. Oh, yeah. The Minnesota Wild start tonight. They open their regular season. The Wolves start here soon. The Purple Daily, although on a bye week for the Vikings, is still on fire. So appreciate everyone that has consumed all of our content and channels. 5-star ratings across your podcast listening of choice is also greatly appreciated. Appreciate you guys. This is the SKOR North Twins. She'll be back soon.